Hello, it's Yuto from SudachiRecipes.com. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make juicy and crispy pan-fried Japanese gyoza dumplings, dipping sauce for gyoza, and how to make gyoza wrappers from scratch. Gyoza are dumplings usually filled with pork, vegetables, and seasonings, and then wrapped in a thin dough. Although they are eaten all across Japan, the dish originates from China. The main difference between the original Chinese one and Japanese one is while steamed dumplings are a lot more popular and common in China, Japanese gyoza is usually fried in a pan. So this is another case where Chinese food came into Japan, then Japanese people found their preferred way to cook it. As said, pork is common filling for gyoza, but shrimp gyoza or vegetarian gyoza are also popular. I'll make a video for these maybe sometime in the future. First, let's look at the ingredients for the fillings. 300 grams of pork mince, 1.5 teaspoon of ginger paste, 1.5 teaspoon of garlic paste, 70 grams of spring onion, that is about half of one stalk, 10 grams of chives, half teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of oyster sauce, 1 pinch of ground black pepper, 1 tablespoon of sesame oil or lard, half teaspoon of sugar, 50 milliliter of warm water. I don't think many recipes include water, but the water will help gyoza become extremely juicy inside. Juicy ones are the best in my opinion, but you can of course leave it out as well. Next, let's look at the ingredients for gyoza wrappers. 100 grams of weak flour, 100 grams of strong flour, 100 milliliters of hot boiled water, half teaspoon of salt, and extra flour for sprinkling. Using hot boiled water instead of cold one makes some good texture for the dough, so I recommend hot water if possible. Finally, let's look at the ingredients for the sauce. 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, half teaspoon of chili oil, 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. There are also many kinds of dipping sauce for gyoza, and they differ from restaurant to restaurant and family to family. But 2 main ingredients for gyoza dipping sauce are soy sauce and rice vinegar. The ratio depends on the person's preference. Many put extra ingredients like sesame oil, chili oil, mirin, black pepper, and stuff like that. I personally like quite vinegary, spicy, and peppery, so I put more rice vinegar and add chili oil, sesame oil, and black pepper. As you experiment with the ratio of these ingredients, you will definitely find golden ratio for your own taste. But for now, this is my preferred ratio for dipping sauce for gyoza. And all of the measurements are to make 32 dumplings. Okay, first, let's start making homemade gyoza wrappers. If you want to use store-bought wrappers, please skip this step. First, measure out 100 grams of weak flour and 100 grams of strong flour, and I use a sieve to sift them into a large bowl. Another pinch of salt and mix it in with the flour. Next, add 100 milliliters of hot boiled water to the flour and mix with a spoon until you have a sticky dough. When it becomes a sticky dough, transfer the dough to a clean surface and add a little flour to the surface. Knead for 10 minutes until you have a smooth ball of dough. I have to admit the majority of people in Japan, even myself, just use store-bought wrappers because it's obviously easier and quicker and fail-free of course. But lots of people kept telling me that store-bought ones can't be homemade wrappers. Well, I was like, yeah man, sure, shut up gyoza snobs. And then I got to the point where I thought, well, I got time today so I should give it a go. Then, guess what I'm saying now? Yeah, store-bought ones can't be homemade wrappers. But don't get me wrong, I'll still buy store-bought ones, but when I have some time, I now make my own wrappers from scratch. Like, when you get it, it's not so much of a hassle or take a long time. Okay, enough talking, let's speed up from here. When you get a nice ball of dough, wrap it up in a plastic kitchen wrap and leave to rest for 30 minutes at room temperature. While you're waiting for the dough, let's make the fillings. Add 300 grams of pork mince, half teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of oyster sauce, 1 pinch of black pepper, 1.5 teaspoon of garlic paste, 1.5 teaspoon of ginger paste, half teaspoon of sugar, 70 grams of finely chopped spring onions into a large bowl. Using your hands or wearing disposable plastic gloves, knead the flavors into the mince. The mince will become almost like a paste, but not completely. I rarely use gloves, but I use it this time for this video, but obviously if you use bare hands, wash your hands well before. Once the mince mix becomes more or less paste-like, add the warm water 1/3 at a time and keep kneading until all the water is in. So each time would be about 15 to 20 milliliters. It probably feels quite wet at this point, but it will be fine. When it's cooked, this juice will come out when you have a bite. Then finally add chopped chives and 1 tablespoon of lard or sesame oil if you prefer. Knead one last time to make sure all the ingredients are evenly spread throughout the mince. You don't need to knead much this time. This is just to mix the chives and lard. Okay, then put cling film over the bowl and leave it in the fridge until you're ready to use it. Let's go back to gyoza wrappers again. After the dough was rested for 30 minutes, cut the dough in half and roll each piece into even cylinders. Wrap one of them back up and set aside for later. The cling film is to stop it from drying out. Cut the cylinder you kept out in half, then half again, until you have 16 pieces. By the way, I'm not very good at shaping things neatly, so my girlfriend is in charge of the whole gyoza wrapper process, as you can probably tell by the hands. Beware that I have the recipe and made 2 separate bowls in this video, so now I've only got 8 pieces. You should have 16 pieces in total at this point. Sorry about the confusion. Roll each piece into a little bowl, then push one ball of dough flat down using the lower part of the palm of your hand. With a flour dusted rolling pin, roll it up and down, then turn the wrappers 90 degrees and roll again. Make it as thin as you can without breaking it. I usually aim at 1mm, but some people prefer thinner than that. But be careful not to make it too thick. I've done that and it ended up being extremely doughy, so I don't recommend any thicker than 1mm. Pick up the wrapper and use your fingers to pinch around the edges, making the edges even thinner and neatening the circle shape. Generously sprinkle flour on the top and bottom of the wrapper and repeat the process for 32 times. Now finally assembling. Prepare a bowl of water, take your gyoza wrapper in the palm of your hand and use a knife to spread a thin layer of the filling onto the middle of the wrapper, leaving a finger width gap all the way around the edge. Be careful not to overfill the gyoza, otherwise you won't be able to seal it. Using your empty hand, dip a finger in the water and wet down one half of the edge. This acts like a glue to bond the edges when pressed together. Carefully fold the gyoza, but don't let the edges touch yet. Pinch the corner of the semicircle shape and then using your thumbs, fold a small pleat and press it down. Continue pleating and pressing each fold all the way along the semicircle shape until the gyoza is completely sealed. Put your completed gyoza onto a flour dusted plate and repeat. It might take a few tries, but you'll soon get the hang of it. We're not professionals, so they don't look that great, but it's not too difficult and has some homemade charm. It's finally time to cook up the effort. It's not long till we can eat them. Heat your non-stick pan on medium and add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Generous amount of oil is preferred, but not necessary either. Carefully place your gyoza into the pan one by one, with a flat side facing down and touching the base. Gyoza placement can be anything, adjusted round shape, but some people prefer lining one by one, especially when you cook a lot of them in one go. Fry until the underneath starts to turn brown. Mix 1 teaspoon of flour and 40 ml of warm water to make slurry. Then pour it into the pan, making sure everything is covered. Put the lid on and allow the slurry to completely evaporate, creating a crispy layer around the gyoza. While the slurry is evaporating, let's make the sauce. Mix 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, half teaspoon of chili oil, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper in a shallow bowl. That's it. Once all of the slurry is evaporated, take off the lid and drizzle with 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. Flip them all onto a plate together and serve with the dipping sauce. That's everything for how to make gyoza from very scratch. We have a written version of recipes for everything we did today on our website. The links are in the description below. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel to see more exciting recipe videos. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day everyone.